I'm Bruce Stormer, a Director in Moore Markins Wellington Limited, Chartered Accountants and Business Advisors, and I thought I'd pop on here today to talk about the COVID-19 wages subsidy package available for New Zealand businesses. So let's start by reminding ourselves of the criteria. So the first criteria is you must be a business that is paying wages to employees or drawing a shareholder salary from a business, or drawing partnership income from the business, or a sole trader drawing income from the business. If you meet these criteria and your revenue for a month compared with the same month last year has decreased by 30% or more, then you qualify. There are a couple of criteria though once you qualify. The first is that you must use the package to pay out wages. You cannot use it to subsidise any other expenses. It must all go in wages payments. The second is that you must continue to employ the team members through and outside of lockdown. And then also you're required to use your best endeavours to continue to pay your employees at least 80% of their normal salary or wage. Now I just want to make a couple of notes here. Points to note. First is that 80%. There's been a lot of discussion around the 80%. From my understanding, it is not an in or out criteria. That is, if you don't pay 80%, you don't qualify. Rather, it is a best endeavours. A business has to be using its best endeavours to continue to pay an employee 80%, but if it cannot, that does not disqualify it from the subsidy package. The second thing I want to note, and I think this is really important, is that you can't just unilaterally change an employee's wages. You need to make sure you follow good process as required by employment law. Now this process can be sped up because of the situation you're in, but you must be talking with your employees and working through that process. Finally, you cannot force your employees to take this time off as annual leave. Yes, the law does allow you to have a closed down period, but it also requires that the employees be given 14 days notice. So please make sure you communicate with your employees and you follow good process. Next, I just want to talk about applying for the subsidy. And in that regard, there is an online application that is quite simple to fill in. There are a number of things you'll need to provide, information about your business, but there are two fields that are there that have perhaps caused you some concern and you no longer need to fill them in. That is an NZBN. Now all companies will have an NZBN number, but self-employed people don't automatically have one, and there was a process to go through, but you don't need to do that now. The second was you must provide some information about your employees, one of which was their date of birth. That's now no longer required. Last time I looked, both these fields were still in the application, but you could submit the application without completing them. It's also really important to note that in the declaration that you are signing and agreeing to, it states that you have the consent of all employees to share their information. So make sure you read the declaration and have got consent from your employees to provide the information that you're providing as part of this application. So let's now address just some general questions around the subsidy. The first is how long is it taking, and I'm hearing that it's taking between 24 hours and 4 to 5 days to receive the funds. It's a pretty good quick turnaround. I am hearing that quite a lot of my clients are receiving the full 12-week subsidy, but some are only receiving 2 weeks. In my experience, these are the businesses that can now apply that are new businesses, have started in the last year, so they don't have a previous year track record. In these cases, they're receiving 2 weeks, and I believe they'll continue to receive 2 weekly payments during this period. The next question, and one I think is most discussed, is what do I do with the wages subsidy, in terms of I have an employee who might work 25 hours, so I qualify for the full $585 subsidy. What do I do if I don't normally pay them $585? So in this case here, you are to continue to pay your employees their normal wage. And the difference between the normal wage and the $5.85 you receive for them being full-time is then able to be used to subsidise the wage of another person. So you might be paying 80%, you might be paying 100% of their normal wage. You can use that to top up one of your other employees' wages subsidies. When I say top up, I don't mean add to. It just reduces the amount you're paying during this time. The system was designed to be nice and simple, so there are going to be these swings and roundabouts. It's designed just to assist employers to keep paying their employees. So use the overpayment for some employees to cover the short payment in other employees. Remember, the key is you must use the wage subsidy 100% on wages. Now, another question and a concern maybe in applying is you saying, I'm projecting, but I don't know if my revenue is going to be below 30%, or I don't know if I will be able to continue on employing my employees, and if I don't meet either of these criteria, I've wrongly claimed. Early on, Grant Robinson talked about committing fraud and making an application. I think that was unhelpful, but has been clarified now, and that there is quite clearly in the declaration a means for repayment of the subsidy. So if you claim the subsidy and you don't qualify at the end of the period, or you've had to let staff go and therefore didn't qualify for some of them for the wages subsidy, there is a repayment mechanism. So just remember that if you claim it and your circumstances change again, you may need to repay this wages subsidy. So what should you do with the money when it comes in? Well, I'm suggesting to clients, if possible, hold it in a separate bank account in the business under a separate bank account. That deposit, when it comes in, is not GST taxable. There is no GST on it. It is also to the business not taxable income. At the point it is paid out, we're then suggesting that you transfer funds from that bank account into your operating account every day where your wages come from. Transfer the subsidy portion of those wages to help your cash flow on a week-by-week basis. Just remember that when it is paid out to your employees, the $5.85 is gross. It is taxable income to them. For the business, the subsidy will be reducing their tax-deductible expense on wages. So it's not income, and but is equally not a deduction when you're paying it out. For those who are receiving as sole traders, then that income, when it comes into your business, is taxable income, not subject to GST. And our view is that we will be apportioning it over the period of the lockdown that it covers. So even if you've received a large lump sum in March, we will be treating that as covering income for April, May, and into June for tax purposes. As far as processing the subsidy goes, you are paying your normal wages. You don't need to record it separately. However, if you've got questions about the processing of the subsidy in your payroll, all payroll providers have good information on their website. So we would suggest you go to your payroll provider and get their recommendations and follow them for the best processing in your wages package. Obviously, if you have any questions about any of this, please feel free to contact your Moore Markham's advisor, and we'd be happy to talk through all of these with you. Thank you, and have a good day, and stay in your bubble.